The galaxy had been at war for decades. Humanity was fighting for its survival, and the Clythar were at the heart of the conflict. The Clythar were a strange and terrifying alien race. They wore heavy metallic armor that covered their entire bodies, making them appear like cold, emotionless machines. The very sight of them sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest soldiers. But no one truly knew what was beneath that armor. No one dared to imagine. Captain Amelia Hawke was one of the best officers in the Human Federation's military. She had led countless successful missions against the Clythar, always pushing her team to the limit. The war had taken its toll on her. She was hardened by years of fighting, her eyes always scanning the horizon for the next danger. Today, she stood in the briefing room, her arms crossed over her chest. The mission was simple reconnaissance. Her team had been sent to gather intel on a Clythar battlecruiser that had mysteriously stopped attacking Federation colonies. No one knew why, and that alone made it even more dangerous. "Captain," Lieutenant Ross, her second-in-command, said, breaking her thoughts. "We're ready to deploy. But I don't like this one. There's something off about it." "I know," Amelia replied, her voice steady, though there was a flicker of doubt in her mind. "We'll approach carefully, no risks. The last thing we need is a trap." Her team of 5 soldiers, all seasoned veterans, moved out. They boarded the stealth shuttle, a sleek craft designed for covert operations. The mission felt different this time. Something about the silence of the cruiser, drifting like a ghost in space, made the hairs on the back of Amelia's neck stand up. As they approached the cruiser, Amelia felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She wasn't just the captain. She was the one who kept them all alive. The shuttle glided into the cruiser's docking bay with ease, its engines barely making a sound. The crew disembarked quickly, weapons raised, eyes scanning every corner of the ship. The interior was cold and dark, lit only by dim emergency lights. "Stay sharp," Amelia whispered, her voice barely audible. They moved forward cautiously, the creak of their boots echoing through the empty hallways. Every door was closed, every vent silent. The ship was deserted, or so it seemed. Suddenly, a low hum echoed through the walls, and a door at the end of the hallway slid open. It was a figure in Clythar armor, standing tall and imposing. Its armor shimmered in the dim light, reflecting the shadows that seemed to crawl around it. "Vlan," Amelia murmured under her breath. The name came from the intelligence reports, but seeing one up close was another thing entirely. It was real. A Clythar standing before her, and yet something was different. The figure didn't attack. Instead, it turned its head toward them slowly, its face hidden beneath the visor. Its movements were calculated, almost deliberate. "Move in," Amelia ordered. Her team advanced, weapons trained on the Clythar warrior. But Vlan didn't resist. He raised his hand slowly, showing that he was unarmed. This was not what they had expected. The Clythar had always been fierce warriors, never yielding, never showing weakness. "Why are you here?" Amelia demanded. "Why aren't you attacking?" The figure spoke for the first time, his voice calm and measured. "I am not your enemy, human. At least, not anymore." Amelia's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected that response. The Clythar were known for their brutality. They didn't talk, they fought. Yet here was this warrior standing in front of her, speaking words of peace. "What are you talking about?" Ross stepped forward, his rifle still aimed at the Clythar's chest. "You're a Clythar. You're here to kill us." Vlan's head tilted slightly, as if considering Ross's words. "You are mistaken. The Clythar you know are not who we once were. We were not always conquerors. The armor you see, it is a prison built by the Shomath." "The Shomath?" Amelia asked, her brow furrowing. "The ancient enemy? You're saying that's what's controlling you?" Vlan nodded, his voice steady. "The Shomath corrupted us. They found us weak and vulnerable. They promised us power, but what they gave us was chains. The armor is not our strength, it is our curse. We were once peaceful, human-like in many ways, but that was before they changed us." Amelia stared at him, her mind racing. This was a lot to take in. The Clythar, once peaceful? It didn't make sense. She had fought them for years, watched them destroy entire colonies, and now this warrior was claiming they weren't the true enemy. But before she could respond, a loud explosion rocked the ship. The sound was deafening, and a wave of heat hit them as flames burst through the walls. "The ship was under attack. Get to the shuttle," Amelia shouted. Her team reacted instantly, but as they turned to retreat, Vlan stopped them. "I can help you escape," he said, stepping forward. His tone was calm, but there was urgency in his voice. but only if you promise to listen. There is much more at stake than you realize." Amelia hesitated. She couldn't trust him. He was still a Clither, wasn't he? But in his eyes there was something she hadn't seen in any other Clithar warrior. Desperation. "A plea for help, please, Captain," he urged. "You have to understand. If the Shometh win, it's not just your people who will suffer. It's the entire galaxy." Amelia made a decision in that moment. She had no choice but to trust him. "Fine," she said, "help us. But if you try anything, I won't," Vlan interrupted. "I swear it." With the Clither warrior leading them, they made their way through the ship's hallways. Vlan moved like a ghost, his footsteps barely making a sound. He led them into a hidden maintenance shaft, away from the chaos of the explosion. As they emerged on the other side, Amelia could see their shuttle, but the scene wasn't what she expected. More Clither warriors were waiting for them, weapons drawn. They were surrounded. Amelia's heart raced. But before she could react, Vlan stepped forward, his voice low and commanding. "Stand down," he ordered. "These humans are under my protection." The other Clithar hesitated, confusion spreading across their armored faces. For a moment, Amelia thought they would attack. But then slowly they lowered their weapons. "Why are you protecting them?" one of the Clither asked. "You have abandoned us, Vlan." Vlan's voice was cold now, like the steel of his armor. "I have not abandoned anyone. I have freed myself from the shackles of the Shometh. And now I will free you too." With that, he turned to Amelia. "We need to go now." The team moved quickly, the sounds of battle echoing behind them. They boarded the shuttle and took off into the safety of space. But Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much larger. As they flew away from the burning Clither cruiser, she couldn't help but wonder, who or what was Vlan beneath that armor? The shuttle sped through the void of space, its engines humming steadily as it distanced itself from the burning remains of the Clither cruiser. Inside, the crew sat in tense silence. Amelia Hawke, captain of the Human Federation's elite forces, stared at the view screen, lost in thought. The Clithar warrior Vlan sat across from her. His armor, though impressive, no longer felt like a threat. In fact, the more Amelia thought about it, the more she realized how much his words had struck her. He wasn't like the other Clither she had fought against for years. He spoke of freedom, of a corruption that turned his people into the conquerors they were. He had helped her escape the cruiser, and now he was offering something bigger than anything she had ever imagined. "Where are we going?" Ross, her second-in-command, asked, his voice laced with suspicion. His eyes flicked between Vlan and Amelia, uncertainty evident on his face. Amelia's gaze never left the view screen. "To the Shometh homeworld," she replied. "Are you serious?" Ross said, his voice rising. "That's their stronghold. They control everything from there." "I know," Amelia said, her voice steady, "but we don't have a choice. Vlan is telling the truth. The Shometh are the real enemy. If we want to end this war, we need to confront them." Ross looked at Vlan, who had remained silent until now. His helmeted face gave nothing away, but there was a strange intensity in his posture. "Why should we trust you?" Ross demanded. "You're still a Clithar. You could have killed us back on that ship. Why help us?" Vlan looked at Ross, his voice calm but firm. "Because I am not the enemy. I am more human than you think. The armor, the one you fear, is what's controlling me, controlling all of us, and I have spent my life trying to break free." Amelia was silent, her mind processing his words. He had saved them from certain death, but could they really trust him? The shuttle continued its journey, the stars blurring as they moved deeper into Clither space. The crew had no other choice but to follow Vlan. His knowledge of the Shometh's tactics, their operations, was invaluable. She needed him if they were to survive. As they neared their destination, the atmosphere on the shuttle grew tense. The crew prepared for the worst, facing an enemy they knew little about on a planet that was completely under the control of the Shometh. Finally, the shuttle descended onto the barren surface of the Shometh homeworld, a desolate, rocky planet. There were no signs of life on the surface, just endless stretches of dust and jagged mountains in the distance. The air was thin and the landscape was eerily quiet. "This is it," Vlan said, standing up as the shuttle landed. "This is where it all began." The team exited the shuttle, their boots crunching against the dry soil. Amelia looked around, feeling the weight of their mission. They had to be careful. Any wrong move could be their last. "I'll guide you," Vlan said, leading them toward a hidden entrance carved into the side of a mountain. The Shomoth don't expect anyone to come here. But if we're going to stop them, we need to get to the core of their operation. The narrow passage led them deep into the mountain. The walls glowed with a faint, unnatural light, and the air grew cooler as they descended. Amelia's heart raced. She had no idea what to expect, but she knew this was the heart of the enemy's power, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that Vlan was more than just an ally. There was something different about him, something hidden. They finally reached a large chamber. In the center, an enormous machine hummed with energy. It was unlike anything Amelia had ever seen. The Shomoth had clearly been experimenting with technology far beyond what humanity had achieved. "This is the Shomoth's power core," Vlan said, his voice low. "It's where they've been using the Clither to fuel their war machines." The core pulsed with a strange energy, and Amelia felt a sudden chill. She glanced at Vlan. "How do we destroy it?" Vlan looked at the core, his eyes narrowing. "We don't, not yet. First, we need to face the truth. The Clithar are not the only ones who've been manipulated. The Shomoth. They've been using us all. The true enemy is much older, more dangerous." Amelia frowned. "What do you mean? What's the real enemy?" Vlan hesitated, then turned to face her. "The armor you see on every Clithar warrior. It's not just a weapon. It's a prison that traps our true forms, our true selves. The Shomoth didn't just turn us into warriors, they altered our very essence. The truth is, the Clithar are not just conquerors. We were once a peaceful race, much like humans. We could have coexisted with you, but the Shomoth corrupted us." Amelia felt a weight settle in her chest. She had fought Clithar for years, killed hundreds, and now she was hearing this. This story of a once peaceful species, manipulated into becoming something monstrous. "Then why didn't you fight back earlier?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Why didn't you stop them?" Vlan looked at her, his expression hardening. "We couldn't. The armor controlled us, forced us into submission. I've spent years trying to break free, to find a way to reach the part of me that's still human. And now I finally have a chance to do it." Amelia stared at him, disbelief mixing with a sense of compassion. She had been trained to fight the Clither, to see them as the enemy. But now, standing in front of Vlan, she couldn't help but see him as more than just an alien warrior. He was a living being, trapped in a system far greater than any individual could understand. "Then let's stop them," Amelia said, her voice firm. "Let's end this." Vlan nodded, and they moved forward. Together, they approached the core, and Vlan began working on the controls. The machine hummed louder as he worked, and the air around them began to crackle with energy. "I'm going to need your help," Vlan said, turning to Amelia. "The Shomoth are aware of us now. They'll be here any moment." Amelia motioned to her team. "Everyone, prepare for battle." As they set up a defensive perimeter, Amelia's mind raced. The Shomoth were dangerous, but if Vlan was right, the battle they were fighting wasn't just against an alien species. It was against the very fabric of their reality. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the truth. The walls of the chamber trembled as footsteps echoed through the corridors. The Shomoth were coming. "We don't have much time," Vlan said, his voice urgent. "The core is linked to the entire planet's power. If we can destroy it, we'll cripple the Shomoth's control over the Clithar. It's our only chance." The first wave of Shomoth soldiers appeared, their eerie black forms emerging from the shadows. Amelia's heart raced, but she was ready. They had come this far, and there was no turning back. As the battle ensued, Amelia fought with everything she had. She could hear Vlan's voice guiding them through the chaos, his once violent past now a force for good. The Clithar were no longer just enemies. They were allies in the struggle for freedom. Vlan was more than just a warrior. He was proof that no matter how deep the corruption, there was always a chance for redemption. And with him by her side, Amelia knew that humanity, along with the Clithar, could finally break free from the shadows of the Shomoth's tyranny. The battle was just beginning, but the light of hope had finally begun to shine through the darkness. This part continues to build on the mystery surrounding Vlan and his true nature, while also introducing the larger, more complex battle against the Shomoth. The focus on redemption and unity adds depth to the plot and keeps readers invested in the outcome.